Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and it's still summer, but we are starting to head down into winter, and winter is likely to be maybe more extreme for a lot of people, especially if they're living in Europe. So if you want to get prepared for what's coming, now is a good time to do that. So let's talk about sleeping bags. So I've got 3 sleeping bags out here, and let's talk about each of them. Okay, over on the right here, this is my Swagman's roll, which is basically kind of like a coat which you can zip up to be a sleeping bag. So this is my summer sleeping bag. This is what I've been using most of the year once it started warming up. As you can see, it's pretty thin. It's just the part that you climb in on. And it works really good during the summer, like I said, but also it's what I use during the winter as well. So the military sleep system uses 2 sleeping bags. One is a warm weather sleeping bag, and then one would be one of these, a cold weather sleeping bag. And so basically this would be inside of your sleeping bag, or you can also have it on the outside. But basically you're going to want to layer up your sleep system. So this is what I'm using at the moment, and this is what is currently listed on my gear page, though I might be swapping this out, which I'll talk about this. Basically, it is a synthetic quilt, and it is the 0-degree version, and you can't get this anymore. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not going to be listing it. You can't get the 0-degree version of this, though this thing is actually really nice. I think it's called the White Cloud or something like that, by Arrowhead Equipment. And a quilt is basically open on the outside, on the back side, excuse me. So it's just laying over the top of you. And this is really all you need if you have a good sleeping pad that you're sleeping on, because you're just compressing the fabric that's behind you anyways. And so you're basically saving a lot of space. So this thing is really nice. It's going to be what I continue to try and use again throughout even the next winter. But I do recommend, especially if it gets really cold where you are, having a full mummy bag. So this is a 0-degree mummy bag. It is synthetic. I recommend synthetic for a lot of reasons, though. If you really want to be lightweight, then you can go with down. Just don't get it wet, and know that it's going to get moldy after a few years, which can get you sick. But anyways, a mummy bag will have this head part, which is really nice, and it also has the back part, so it's going to keep air from escaping. So basically, this is for if you want to make sure you're going to be warm enough, then you should get something like this. If you are really worried about being ultra light, then getting a quilt is nice, though you can't get this one anymore, so you're probably going to need to look into a different one. And you may want to just get a down quilt, but you know, there's a lot of reasons why that's a bad idea. And then you're going to want to have something lighter, which you're pairing with your bag if it's going to get down into really cold, like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So I tested both of these last winter, and you know, you're a little bit restricted in your testing because you never really know how cold it's going to get on any given day, and you get to try lots of different things. So basically my results weren't conclusive. Basically it was, I can survive in the quilt, it seems like, down to pretty much the coldest of days, but it's a little bit difficult because if you roll around or get on your side, you're going to let all of the air out, and suddenly you're going to be cold. Also, it tends to be dry where I am, so when it's wet and cold, then it feels like almost 20 degrees colder, right? And I didn't really get a whole lot of wet, cold days to test this type of stuff out. So basically, I think I could survive with just the quilt, but I don't really know, and I'm going to test it out this winter. So for a mummy sleeping bag, this one that I have right here is the Cahlen Lee 0-degree, and it's only $90. That is extremely inexpensive, so I definitely recommend picking this thing up. My coldest night, I was in this thing, and by far I wasn't even cold. Okay, so this thing is really nice. So basically, if I was recommending someone who really wanted to make sure that they were going to survive the winter, they weren't using down because down has a lot of downsides, and they didn't want to spend a lot of money, I'd say get the Cahlen Lee and pair it with a Swagman roll. But the Swagman roll comes in 2 different versions. One of them is the one I have, which is well over $100, which is water resistant, and it's a little bit lighter. So, but they make a Swagman's roll. I don't remember what it's called exactly, but it's much less expensive. And honestly, it serves all of the purposes that I personally would need it for. So if I ever replace this thing, I'm going to get the cheaper version of the Swagman's roll. So basically that would be what I recommend. So like even with the Teton, like if I was going to get another mummy bag, the one that I would get would probably be the Snug Pack Special Forces 2, which is like a $300 bag. But it's the reason I would get it is because it's a little bit less expensive. Sorry, a little bit less weighty by a few ounces, right? So you can get this bag, which for $90, which is almost as good as a $300 bag. Okay, so I definitely recommend this thing. So another thing to be thinking about would be your sleeping pad. So especially if you're using a quilt, you're going to want to make sure you have a really good sleeping pad. I do have an X-Pad. X-Pad is the brand. It's a inflatable mattress, but I try not to use it because I'm trying to just use my cut in half foam sleeping pad, which I've modified in a few ways, which you can just look up on the gear page on my website and see the video where I show you how to make that thing. Basically, I added some tape on the outside, which is going to make it really like not likely to tear when it gets caught on things, because it's usually on the outside sleeping pad. Also, it has a aluminum lining on the center now. So basically, I think I was on that on the coldest day. So that basically this winter I'm going to be testing that sleeping pad again. But if you want to make sure that you're going to survive for sure, then I do recommend having a inflatable sleeping pad like the Thermarest Z-Lite or the X-Pad. I don't remember which one I have, but basically inflatable is good. It is annoying. They get punctures really easily and they can be hard to fix, especially in the middle of the night. So that's kind of the reason to why I like to use the foam pad. But again, they're not going to make you guaranteed to survive a really cold night. So anyways, if it gets really cold this winter, like -20 or something like that, which I didn't face last winter, but does sometimes happen around here, I may need to actually have all 3 of these. So that's kind of why I have them. I keep the mummy sleeping bag as part of my my bike loadout, right? So I don't list it as part of my backpacking gear. So anyways, that's the sleeping bag situation and my recommendations. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider sharing it. If you'd like to help me out in a more substantial way, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/gift. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether publicly or privately, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/one-on-one. Thanks again for watching.